Coming up on Tech News Today, Nokia triumphantly returns to the United States with the Lumia 710. Louis C.K. makes bank on his video he marketed directly to people, and an internet speed record is broken. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Wednesday, December 14th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 30% off your new account for 3 months, go to Squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT12. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Nicole Lee.
And Jason Howell has the day off. Chad Johnson behind the board. Joining us, the senior writer from HowStuffWorks.com, host of the Tech Stuff podcast, Mr. Jonathan Strickland.
Hello, Tech News Today.
Thank you for joining us, John. It's great to have you back on the show.
Glad to be back. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to start off with some Nokia news, but first, this just in. Breaking news. Chad. There we go. That doesn't undermine the urgency of it at all.
It's been waiting around. It broke.
Just before we came out here to do the show, Galaxy Nexus finally announced in the U.S., launching December 15th on Verizon for $300. We'll have more details in the calendar, but we wanted to let you know that off the top. Let's talk about the Nokia 710. The Lumia 710 is entering the U.S. smartphone market. It's Nokia's big return to the United States, and it's not expensive. Lumia 710 is the lower end of the two Lumias that Nokia announced in Europe, and it's slated to go on sale here in the U.S. in January 11th, for $50 after rebate.
For a Nokia phone in the U.S.
With a contract.
With the contract.
Subsidized.
That's crazy.
Nokia doesn't do that. Now, we have a Nokia. We have the Lumia 800.
We have the fancier version.
Yeah.
This is my camera.
They're similar.
But that's the Lumia 800. This is the one that, the higher end version is the one that you would want if you had more money to spend.
That one's
obviously.
not coming to the U.S.
No, there's a version of this coming to the U.S.
But that's not the one coming January 11th.
Yeah, but this Lumia 710, it's still, it does have Windows Phone Mango. It does have the latest version of Windows Phone, and it has. Let's just go through the specs here. It has a hold on a second.
1.4 gigahertz single core Qualcomm processor.
Yes.
5 megapixel camera. 3.7-inch screen. What else?
And it's available in red, blue, and yellow.
Oh.
Very colorful. And basically the idea of this phone is, like we said, sort of the lower end version of Windows. And I think this is kind of a way for Nokia to enter the U.S. market at a really low price point. If you want to get into Windows Phone, but you're kind of skittish, it's too expensive, it's not.
Did we mention it's T-Mobile? I think
T-Mobile.
That's where you have to sign up for T-Mobile, a phone company that might not be around at the end of next year, although it's looking more likely that it won't be bought by AT&T.
Yeah, if you compare this to T-Mobile's other phones, they have the HTC Radar 4G, and that's free. With contract. So the fact that Nokia is showing up, they're subsidized, which is a great move for them finally, that you can actually go and get, hey, I'm not going to spend $500 on a Nokia phone with some features that are missing. But it's competing up against HTC Radar 4G, which is it's a decent phone as well. So I'm kind of curious about that.
But I mean, it's Nokia's first phone, and I think there are a lot of Nokia people here in the U.S. There are. You can look at me with a very skeptical look on your face right now, Iyaz. But I think there are. I think there are people that are willing to give Windows Phone a chance, and I don't know. I'm kind of optimistic, I guess.
John, what's your take on Nokia Windows phones and the Lumia 710?
It's an interesting move. I think it's a good move for Nokia, and it's also a good move for Windows, really. It is a nice introduction to the smartphone market for people who haven't invested in that yet, or maybe who are on T-Mobile and they're interested in smartphones, but they aren't enamored with the Android operating system. It's a good alternative. So I think it's got promise. It's got potential. I've been using T-Mobile on the Android platform for the last few years. And I think if this had come out back when I was making the move to smartphones, it might have given me pause before I decided, well, which platform am I really going to go with?
One of the problems with the Windows Phone is that it just isn't very prevalent. You don't know a lot of people that have them. It doesn't have a huge market share. And according to a new post on The Verge by Chris Ziegler, that's one of the reasons Andy Leese got moved out of the Windows Phone division. Now, we talked about this earlier this week, but Ziegler's dug up a little more information. His sources say that Leese's role is a demotion, and he has, quote, been benched. He will likely seek a new role, whether it's inside Microsoft or outside Microsoft, after Windows 8 comes out. And the article implied that Leese was constantly talking up the market share of Windows Phone and promising larger and larger market shares, only to have it disappoint. And that is why they transferred him out of there and gave it to Meyerson, who is more reasonable about what they need to accomplish. And Meyerson has said in front of Microsoft employees, supposedly, our market share is essentially 0% for all intents and purposes, trying to light a fire under people. Like, we need to get out there and make Windows Phone more popular.
When these details came out, that looked like he was benched instead of being put laterally, or this is a better move for Lees. It reminded me of back when there was a Steve Ballmer financial call. He was explaining how we haven't sold as many Windows Phones as we'd like in the first year. It says, this is a quote, "I'm not saying I love where we are, but I'm very optimistic on where we can be." I remember that. I was like, well, this seems a little strange. He seems disappointed with Windows Phone 7. I wonder if they're going to do anything. It's like, yeah, I guess they decided to move Lees off of the Windows Phone because what's the phrase? Overpromised, underdelivered?
Yeah. They also there's an anecdote that blames Lees for Motorola becoming Android only. He said he turned Motorola off.
That's true. Oh yeah, I did hear about that.
I thought it was interesting because you don't normally hear about executives getting benched or moved because they were expressing an aggressive stance on where they wanted to be in the market. That, to me, seems like it's usually a positive thing for most executives to say, you know, we intend to be the #3 platform. Like that was a very aggressive statement. It's weird to think that someone was being punished for making that. I understand that not delivering on that promise is a huge deal, but to say that it's preferable to say we're at 0 right now and we hope to be a little above 0 in the near future, I mean, that doesn't sound like a go-getting kind of company.
It sounds like somebody trying to light a fire under folks to me. Like, let's not pay attention to what we have. Let's pretend we're at 0, because we pretty much are. We're starting over from scratch, so let's go get this. But you're right, that doesn't sound like a market leader, does it? It sounds like somebody who's trying to catch up from behind, and that is where Microsoft is. Side note, CNET reporting Dan Coiner no longer leading the design and experience group for Xbox. He is replaced by Emma Williams. She's the general manager of Xbox Experience, and she is largely credited with the new Metro design of the Xbox dashboard. That's another indication that Microsoft is serious about unifying the experience across all the different platforms. And then finally, Danske Bank saying that Nokia may sell its smartphone business to Microsoft.
Now, that rumor popped up before.
Yeah,
Nokia shares are
there's
doing
another report on it.
Then again, with the idea of moving Lees over for a time-sensitive kind of thing, maybe he's working on with ELOP about moving the smartphone division over. I mean, I don't know why Microsoft would have to do that, considering their competitors are Apple, who makes their own hardware, and then Google's buying Motorola Mobility, which could make its own Android hardware. Why would Microsoft need a hardware arm? Well, maybe Nokia doesn't seem to care anymore. I mean, maybe not. I really think that it was Microsoft's contacts into the U.S. carriers that got them the subsidies, because Nokia was not about subsidies here. So it sounds like an interesting idea. I can actually believe this at this point, because if Microsoft doing aggressive moves like moving Lees and then getting rid of somebody from Xbox, why not something like this? They have to try something desperately, because Ballmer's been in the media spotlight for all year. You're not doing enough to grow Microsoft. You're not aggressive enough. Nothing's happening under you. Maybe he wants to have some kind of legacy.
Who does? Ballmer?
I find this very odd, because the Xbox division in Microsoft has in general been doing pretty well consistently. And Xbox is the #1 console in the United States as far as sales go right now, I believe. So also Coiner was the fellow who actually argued that there needed to be a unified look to the Xbox experience. It shouldn't be a bunch of piecemeal features that would look like they came from all these different divisions. He was an advocate for going with a unified approach to give the user a good experience. So this idea of moving him out and moving Williams in order to have a unified experience, considering that he was advocating for that from the beginning. Now, granted, we're looking at
Yeah, but he was looking at a unified experience in the Xbox, and maybe that's counterproductive to having an experience that is unified across platforms, because the Xbox has to make some compromises in that situation.
It could be, and maybe he was not so willing to make those compromises. Yeah. I'm hopeful that maybe the move they're going, because from what I understand, Coiner's not gone.
No,
he's going to have a different role.
He's not even demoted, I don't think. Not unlike Lise.
Maybe he'll be put in a role that will be similar to when he took over the Xbox Live Experience role, and be used in that capacity. The idea of like, well, you've done a great job laying the foundation. Now we need you over here. Maybe that's the story. I don't think we have the whole story here.
Yeah. All right. On to Google pulling The Verge reports now 27 malicious apps after 2 security firms, one of them Lookout Mobile Security, tipped off Google that malware was tricking users into sending SMS messages to premium rate phone lines. It's called Android.ru fraud, because a lot of the phone lines were in Russia. The games, or the apps posed as popular games like Angry Birds, Assassin's Creed, Tetris, even the Opera mobile browser. And then the terms of service would say, and you agree to let us send a bunch of text messages to these premium accounts. Nobody reads the terms of service. You press OK, and suddenly they're sending a bunch of text messages to highly expensive accounts.
So clearly, I mean, you got what you paid for. I mean, you wanted this app, you hit agree.
And you said agree.
I can't believe they actually bothered to do this. If they're going to, I guess technically it's not fraud then, if it's in the terms of service.
I guess.
If they're going to steal, get money from you, the fact that they included this language in there, I just think is a little extra work. I mean, that's a nicety, I guess.
The fraud part might come into the fact that it's billed as something it's not. In other words, if it's billed as Angry Birds and it turns out that
it's not Angry Birds,
terms of service, that might be a cause for calling it fraud, even if the terms of service eventually lay out what it really does. And in case people don't know, these premium text accounts, it's kind of like if you've ever received a text message saying you can listen to this song if you click on this link, to reply to this text message, and then you listen to it, and then it says, oh, now you're subscribed to this service. It's going to cost $10 a month. You can text stop at any time. Stop does not always work, because most of these, well, I won't say most, many of these companies are unethical and unscrupulous, and they will essentially bill you monthly, and it'll show up on your phone bill. That's the sort of stuff that we're seeing here. It's essentially these companies that are marketing some sort of subscription-based service that bills your phone bill, and the apps are masquerading as a gate. That's actually a gateway to these services.
Yeah. Do you think this, Nicole, do you think this gives Android a bloody nose, or is this going to be seen as part of the cycle that, all kinds of devices have security problems from time to time, and as long as you as a user are smart?
I just feel like there are so many of these this kind of news story almost every other week that's, oh, Android, it's an open system, therefore it's open to malware. And yeah, but there's a lot of good things about Android too, because it's open. Yeah. Right? So I don't think it's fair to.
My Windows desktop is an open system and open to malware. Yeah. And so is OS 10.
So is OS 10.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
I kind of agree with you there. Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. I use it for Forecast. Right here on the TWiT network, forecastpodcast.com runs on Squarespace. Easy to use UI. So every Tuesday after Forecast is done, I look and I find the video and I find the audio and I go in there and I open up the browser and I pop that stuff in. I cut and paste it from the RSS feed into Squarespace's WYSIWYG editor, and it immediately translates all the links, all the formatting over there. It just makes it incredibly easy. Now, I know some HTML. I could go in there and hard code it myself if I wanted to, but why would I when I can make it so easy? However, Squarespace gives me the ability to do that. If I want to tweak some HTML or some CSS, I can get in there and do that as well. There's an Android app, there's an iPhone app, there's an iPad app, all kinds of widgets, like Flickr and Twitter. So don't take my word for it. Go try it out for free. You don't even need a credit card. Go to squarespace.com, sign up. You can import your current blog, see what it looks like, play around, make it look the way you want. And if you decide to keep the account, no credit card needed at that point because you're paying for it. But use the offer code TNT12 and get 30% off for 3 months. That's squarespace.com. Use the offer code TNT12. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. And we mentioned in Newsviews yesterday that Louis C.K. Had put up his comedy sketch live at the Beacon Theater
Bacon theater.
With that, he would have
sold
sold more
sold more.
if he had done it at the Bacon Theater.
I hear it sizzles.
Yeah. Louis C.K. Live at the Beacon Theater was put on sale for 4 days with no DRM for $5 a piece. And the money went straight to Louis C.K. Now, he said his costs for operation were $170,000 to produce the video, $32,000 to build the website, some PayPal charges, you know, they take a cut, and a week of his time to edit the video. And he has sold 110,000 copies for more than $500,000. But when you take out his costs, he says he's easily made $200,000. And for him, that's totally worth it.
Now, he said that he probably would have been paid more by a larger company.
He would have been paid in advance.
Right.
Yeah.
In
And
advance.
then
That
the
would
money
have
he's
been more
getting
than
right now.
this.
I mean, this is obviously still being sold right now. But the thing is, he also mention that it would those companies probably would charge you $20 to rent it, or $90 to own it, or $9.99
to all the fans.
right, or $9.99 with DRM on iTunes or on
more
Amazon.
importantly, he has full creative control in this case, and who knows what those companies would restrict him on doing, right?
Right, he was talking about international releases could be held up forever. I mean, the thing about this video is it's just a file, right? You can just move it anywhere. He said, burn it, rip it, do whatever you want
No
with
DRM.
it. Doesn't matter. I like this approach.
He says, you know, piracy has not been a big issue for him, even though it's DRM free. He's like, most people are coming and getting it from me and paying me the $5. He's like, even if you got a torrent, still come and pay me the $5. Just do the right thing. And he's playing the game the right way, which is like, I can't stop the pirates. It's going to happen anyway. So I'm going to appeal to the fans to support me in this. I'm going to do stuff that supports them by giving them a DRM-free copy. And you know what? He can still sell this thing to HBO. Now, he might not be able to sell it for as much as if he'd given them an exclusive out of the gate, but he can still syndicate it. There's nothing preventing him. He was able to do a worldwide region, no region restriction release here.
Well, he's also in a unique position. He's pretty established in certain
He's well
sectors.
known.
Yeah, and
he has a very loyal legion of fans.
He's got an FX series. He's had, I think, he's had a previous HBO series. He's had great specials. He goes on tour a lot. I mean, he's very knowledgeable in tech as well. I mean, if you watch Louis, I mean, he edits the show. I mean, that's
on his little MacBook.
On a MacBook.
Yeah.
So, like, he's kind of in a unique position. I mean, there have been other musicians have done this.
Yeah,
like
Radiohead has done this.
Radiohead.
And it's an interesting experiment. I just don't know how. I mean, if let's say I wanted to do this, I mean, I don't think people are going to pirate it anyway. I mean,
Yeah, but you're also not going to be able to sell your special to HBO.
No, I won't be.
You know, so I
Well,
mean,
actually, you do the similar thing with your books.
yeah.
And
You can also look at people like Jonathan Colton, who started out this way. I mean, he didn't go from a position of being a signed artist and then decided to experiment. He took this approach from the get-go of having an online presence and offering people the chance to download his music and pay him if they wanted to, because again, he had the same sort of philosophy as Louis had, and he's turned that into a success and has made a full career out of it. So I wouldn't say it's a unique position. I'd say that anyone who wants to take this kind of approach has a real challenge set ahead of them, and not everyone's going to succeed where Louis C.K. succeeded. And Louis C.K. did come at this from a pretty, I guess you could call it a privileged position. He already had a fan base that was well established, and he had the skills already in place to do a lot of this work. So I wouldn't go so far as to say that this is a one-time only thing, or it's limited to just a very small group of people. But I would say that it's not, it's not the opposite either. It's not like the doors.
It's almost the purest form of meritocracy, because if his stuff was crap, people wouldn't pay for it anyway because it was crap. But because he is really good and the show is really good, and the word of mouth travels around that it's worth the money, then people would pay the $5 for it. If it was, if someone did like a crappy show or whatever, that's something else. But it's
Nicole, do you mean a Tom meritocracy?
Now we have to move on to the next story.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks a lot, John. That's the pun rule. It's just the way it works.
Wait, is that the rule? I could have made this show so much faster.
Yeah, this is now a
still can.
meritocracy. Let's move on to our next story. Scientists break world record for data transfer speeds, 186 gigabit per second. Breaking the previous record of 119 gigabit per second set in 2009. One-way speeds of 98 gigabits per second. Data was sent between the University of Victoria in Victoria, British Columbia, and the Washington State Convention Center in Seattle over a 100 gigabit per second circuit set up by Canary. That's Canada's Advanced Research and Innovation Network. 2 million gigabits per second per day if you could keep that connection up and running. That's the equivalent of 100,000 full Blu-ray discs over that connection. John, you looked into this for how stuff works. How does this work? How are they able to achieve 186 gig per second?
Okay, a couple of different things you got to know here. One is that anyone who's been keeping up with data transfer speeds and the records that have been set might be scratching their heads, because while 186 gigabits per second is fast, it's not nearly as fast as some of the other speeds that have made the news, especially in 2011. Earlier this year, there was a report about data transmission speeds that were at 26 terabits per second. And if you know, a gigabit being a billion and terabit being a trillion, that's a lot more. But in that case, it was talking about encoding and decoding data, not transmitting it per se across a fiber optic line. However, there were two other experiments early in 2011 which saw transfer speeds of 101.7 terabits per second using, I think it was 370 lasers in a single system, and another one that was 109 terabits per second that was using a fiber optic cable that had 7 light guiding cores inside it. Normally, a fiber optic cable only has 1, and each of the 7 cores was carrying 15.6 terabits per second of information. What makes this special is that it's two-way communication. So it's simultaneous communication across the circuit that they're talking about, and that's where the 186 gigabits per second comes into play. That's a big deal. It was 98 gigabits per second one way, 88 gigabits per second the other way. It allows a transfer of information on a massive scale between two banks of servers, and the circuit they created had an array of servers in both Victoria and in Seattle. Each array of servers had a 100 gigabit per second Ethernet switch, and then had dedicated fiber optic cables running between the two cities. And that's how they were able to achieve this. And it's all sort of a subsection of Internet 2, which is a kind of it's not really the sequel to the internet, but it's a dedicated network that a lot of research facilities and universities are on.
Yeah, because the internet was set up for a bunch of research facilities to share their information with each other, and then we all got in there and started, you know,
talking about our lunch on Twitter.
Yeah, talking about our lunch and fan groups about Mystery Science Theater and taking up all the bandwidth.
I can tell you exactly what happened. What happened was GeoCity started. Everyone put in those MIDIs, and that's where it all just
those under construction animated GIFs drove them away to internet too. And yeah, so this type of connection is being researched so that they can use it at places like the Large Hadron Collider to be able to transfer that massive amount of data that they're plowing through there.
Yeah, like the big story earlier in this year about the whole the question about neutrinos and whether or not they're faster than the speed of light. Yeah. That sort of stuff, these kind of experiments that could be going on in different locations around the world, scientists would be able to share petabytes of information over a relatively short amount of time, when before they pretty much would just be kind of silos of information. And you know, you could request information from them, but you would get it in literally in bits and pieces. Now you're going to get it in terabits. So it's great news for research facilities and universities. It's not the sort of thing that we're going to see roll out to the consumer anytime in the near future.
Also porn. Let's move on to Glassdoor.com, issuing new ratings for the tech industry report card. These are things like approval ratings of CEOs and how much people like to work at particular places. The top place to work in technology, according to the rankings on Glassdoor.com, Facebook. With a 4.3 rating. I think that's out of 5, so they got pretty close to the top. MITRE, which is a nonprofit research group, works with government funding, 4.1, number 2. Google, number 3 at 4.0. Apple, number 4, 3.9. Rackspace, number 5, 3.9. But it looked like people were more interested in the CEO rankings because almost everybody you know went down. Steve Ballmer fell from 49% to 35%. Jeff Bezos of Amazon dropped from 85% to 81%. T-Mobile CEO Philip Hum dropped from 70 to 57% because of the sale, most likely. And only CEOs of Yahoo and Xerox ranked below Ballmer and these other folks that we're talking about. Reed Hastings dropped from 79% to 61%. AOL Tim Armstrong, 71% to 55%. However, Meg Whitman, taken over for Leo Apotheker at HP, went to 76%. That raised it from Apple Techers' rating of 62%.
Back to Facebook being the best place to work for. I wonder if it's because they might have that IPO in a couple of months. And they're like, hey, we're going to do really well pretty soon. We're paying some stock, and this is going to work out for us pretty good. And I'm thinking for Ballmer's numbers going down. I mean, he's, again, like I said earlier, he's been like raked over the coals this year in the press. And I'm sure maybe Iyaz went ahead and wrote something up on Glassdoor saying, I can't believe I got
conspiracy theory.
That's Coiner all the way.
And Coiner as well. Very upset. The unified experience of
we don't know if that's true. We don't even think that's true.
It's unlikely.
It is most likely not true. All right, let's move on to the news views. There it is. Get ready to drink, folks. Mega Upload lodged a contract with will.i.am in federal court Wednesday as proof that it had the right to include will.i.am singing "When I've Got to Send Files Across the Globe, I Use Mega Upload" in their video that has been removed from YouTube. Kim.com of Mega Upload told a federal judge that he had spoken with will.i.am, and will.i.am said he absolutely had not authorized the submission of any takedown notice on his behalf. In the ongoing saga of Tech News Today, episode 391, it is still down. Universal Music Group has requested it be removed. We have filed a counter notice, and Universal Music Group has until December 23rd to either withdraw their objection or have a court file an injunction against TWiT for the episode. But for a daily tech news show, that's essentially silencing us, at least on YouTube. Now, we have the show available in other places, obviously, but on YouTube, you cannot watch Tech News Today, episode 391, until December 23rd. So they get to censor us for no reason, even though we are fair use.
In much lighter news, it's time for the rumor mill. According to Digitimes sources, Apple will likely offer a new MacBook Pro in the second quarter of 2012 that comes with a display capable of 2880 by 1800 resolution. This has display suppliers super excited because they want to supply the displays to Apple and should probably get display snobs like me salivating. Like, I'm excited about it. 2880 by 1800.
It's Retina, right? Can you call that Retina?
Well, it's close to it. Well, Apple will.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
I can't. They can.
Very true. Google has updated its Gmail iOS app with support for custom signatures, a new email notification sound, and scribbles. So if you want to make a pictogram instead of writing out your thoughts, you should be able to do that with the Gmail app. The drawing will be sent as an attachment. There is still no support for multiple accounts, however.
So from now on, I'll just send Iyaz a drawing.
Yeah, that's right.
If you look behind me, the drawings that are behind me are actually How Stuff Works articles.
That's what they're going to be from now on.
There you go.
Submit them by Gmail. A month after the Android app received a facelift, Netflix's iPad app has joined the makeover party. Maybe there should be a reality show about this. You'll see big thumbnails of movie and TV posters, but the revised interface shows you twice as many titles as the old one did.
After gaining the attention of Senators Ed Markey and Al Franken, the CEO and Senior VP of Carrier IQ made a visit to the FCC and the FTC on Tuesday. The FTC is in charge of consumer protection in the United States and anonymously confirmed its investigation with the Washington Post. Carrier IQ, however, says it is not under investigation, and the meetings with the government were sought by Carrier IQ.
They probably are investigating someone else who uses Carrier IQ.
Maybe. Bloomberg reports that Sony and Warner Brothers are in talks with Amazon to bring Amazon into its Ultraviolet system. Ultraviolet is the movie studio solution that would put your digital copy of a movie in the cloud. The studios hope that if Amazon offers Ultraviolet movies for sale, people will actually buy them. Amazon was a member of the Ultraviolet group for a short time.
Business Insider reporting that there's a rumor going around, actually VentureBeat also reporting this, that Google's chief business officer Nikesh Arora is on a short list to be the next CEO of Yahoo. Now, this is just a rumor at this point, but Forbes contributor Eric Jackson said way back in April that Arora never impressed him as chief business officer, and Arora may not be in Larry Page's inner circle, so could be a perfect fit for Yahoo.
So Forbes will still dislike this guy. That's great. Austrian Max Schrems decided he wanted to know exactly what information Facebook had on him, and he put in a formal request. He received a CD which contained over 1,200 files about his Facebook activity. Data included friend requests, when Schrem logged in and out of Facebook, relationship changes. Oh yeah, and data Schrems thought he deleted. Oh, they were also on the CD. So
ooh, that's juicy.
At least they gave it to him.
Let's move on to the randomizer.
Randomizer.
NASA is developing a Canon harpoon to collect comet samples. Need I say more?
Title, right? I mean, that made it for me. I read the article.
The comet harpoon. Landing a spacecraft would be impractical. NASA would be able to fire a harpoon system that could be fired into a rock multiple times, and they've already tested it at Goddard Space Flight Center. The test unit looks like a giant metal crossbow, which would be replaced with the cannon, thus making the plot of Armageddon suddenly realistic.
That's scary.
Wow.
I think I know the climactic speech in that. It's "There she blows, a tail like a snow hill. It is Moby Comet.
The Great White Comet.
The Great White Comet. That's
A
true.
gold doubloon for the first to spot the comet."
All right, let's finish up by checking the calendar.
Closing arguments in the Novell versus Microsoft trial are today, and now it's up to the jury. Humble Bundle 4 is out right now. Pick up games like Super Meat Boy and Night Sky HD without DRM. Calendar is still going. That are cross-platform. They support charity, and you can choose the price you want to pay. Representative Lamar Smith, who drafted SOPA, has scheduled a committee vote on a slightly revised version of the controversial bill on Thursday. Representative Daniel Issa says the bill cannot pass unless major objections are addressed. Silicon Valley execs sent an open letter opposing the bill. Newspaper editors also came out against the bill.
Pretty much nobody's for the bill anymore except the MPAA, the RIAA, and the committee members.
Tomorrow, December 15th, the white-ish Motorola Droid Razr will be available at Verizon. I say white-ish because there's still an awful lot of black and gray on it. It's $300 on a 2-year contract. You might not want that, though, because the Verizon Wireless has confirmed, here it is, that the Galaxy Nexus will be available starting tomorrow, December 15th, online and in stores. It's actually going to be there. It's $300, 2-year contract. Verizon version has many of the same specs as the international GSM version, but it supports Verizon's LTE network and apparently has a larger battery.
Ooh, it's pretty.
RIM's earnings report is tomorrow, so that's going to be bad news tomorrow. No word on whether the executives will be drunk or on a plane during the call.
I heard they'll try to show restraint, but then they might chew through them.
That's quite possible. Also tomorrow, Star Wars Galaxies is set to close, so move on, folks. On Friday.
So wait. So Star Wars Galaxies closes tomorrow, but the Galaxy Nexus opens tomorrow.
Yes.
So we have parity.
Yeah,
Parody.
the conservation of galaxies.
On Friday, December 16th, early adopters of the Nintendo 3DS can pick up 10 Game Boy Advance games from the Nintendo eShop for free. Titles include F-Zero Maximum Velocity, Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap, Metroid Fusion, and a couple of Mario games. The ITC has delayed its ruling on whether HTC infringes on Apple's patents to Monday, December 19th. The ruling was to be today. And finally, Google extended free calling in Gmail in the U.S. and Canada until the end of 2012. Google still has not announced if there will be pay plans in the future.
Let's check what's incoming.
Incoming message.
First is a voicemail with a thought on the NTSB's idea of asking all phone use to be banned when you're in a car.
Hey guys, regarding today's show, you mentioned a story about banning all cell phone use, including hands-free. I drive 10 hours a day for a living. I would not be able to do my job if I couldn't take phone calls. Yes, I do use a hands-free device, but don't forget, there are people that practically live in a vehicle for their job. And to not be able to take phone calls would basically make their job not work anymore. Anyway, thanks for the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. So he's saying, look, if you ban the use of phones in the car, people who are in their car a lot, think people like truck drivers, would not be able to talk on the phone in the car. That's what NTSB is proposing. They wouldn't be able to do their jobs because they have to talk while driving. Now, Nicole and I both expressed the opinion that you probably shouldn't be talking while you're driving. Could there be some exemption made for people who have to work in their car, like, you know, some sort of special license or something?
Special license.
I don't know.
Sure, I mean, especially license to drive a truck.
Special sticker on your car that says I'm allowed to use the phone while I'm behind the wheel.
Oh, like a little bumper sticker saying working while driving.
Some kind of basically some kind of training that says, you know, you've got to be aware that you're not as, you know, able to concentrate on the road. Because I know that these guys who drive professionally are going to say, look, I know how to handle it. I drive for a living. I know how to avoid the obstacles.
They don't get speeding exemptions, right? Like they can know how to drive. I mean, race car drivers don't get that.
That's true, but they do get to drive things that are much heavier and more dangerous than we do because they have a special license.
Considering this is commerce, I'm pretty sure there'd be an exemption carved out.
That's interesting.
I wasn't on the yesterday's show, or the show where this was a discussion. Did the report actually cite accident reports about?
It cited studies.
So I mean, of course we know about the studies about using a cell phone, especially if you're texting. It's as bad or worse than if you were intoxicated behind the wheel of a vehicle, which is a terrible thing. But I don't think I've ever seen any studies talking about accidents that were tied to someone being on the phone and how prevalent they are. That's what I would need to see before I would ever want to sign off on legislation that bans you from being able to use a phone while behind the wheel. I would want to see the numbers of where's the actual impact of this, literally, unfortunately. Without that information, it seems almost anecdotal.
All right, let's move on to some good news from Roy, who apparently, he tells us, called Buzz Out Loud back in the day, and he's following us now on Tech News Today. He's got good news from New Zealand, and it's not about the Rugby World Cup.
Hi TNT crew, this is Roy from New Zealand. I actually called a couple of years ago and left a message with you, Tom, and your previous podcast about the data caps and speed here in New Zealand. Things have done a bit of a U-turn, and now at the time things were very slow with pitiful data caps. Now I've just signed up and changed my plan to unlimited, totally unlimited, and I'm getting a reasonable 15 megabits a second download speed. So I'm really happy. Things have changed totally in the last couple of years. Keep up the good work. I enjoy listening. Bye-bye.
I love it. We never get this. It's always complaints about bandwidth caps getting worse, this or that. New Zealand has got better bandwidth caps, better bandwidth.
Roy's, it gets better.
Yeah, exactly. All you have to do is have your nation win the Rugby World Cup.
That's all?
And then your bandwidth gets better.
That must be.
It's another sign that New Zealand is better than Australia.
Yeah. Ooh.
Just saying.
Hear that, Aussies? Nicole picking a fight, eh? All right.
Nice.
Let's finish up with an email. What do we got, Iyaz?
We have from KSK Kryptonian in the chat room. Dear Iyaz and the bearded one. I guess that would be Jonathan or Tom, I don't know. As a Jayhawk fan and resident of the great state of Kansas, home of Smallville, I was appalled and enraged to hear KU referred to as University of Kentucky.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
I should have cut that too. I'm sorry.
The University of Kansas, that school of red and blue Jayhawk, is the college referenced by Nicole as being smart enough to buy up the XXX domains, as seen in the video of your fine program. For shame, sirs, I blame Chad because he was there. I don't really know why. Also, the rumor at the call center I worked at for T-Mobile in Wichita, Kansas, back in 2008, was that DT was trying to get rid of the American T-Mobile because of massive losses in profit and churn of subscribers. My impression was that they regretted the purchase of VoiceStream in 2001 about as fast as Dahmer regretted merging.
Daimler, who bought Chrysler.
Right, and Chrysler.
Not Dahmer, who ate people.
Oh, man.
Anyway, the AT&T merger was the first time anyone had bitten in 2002. The rumor was T-Mobile. Biting gets funnier, doesn't it?
I know, it does.
The rumor was T-Mobile was buying Sprint, but 5 years later, the big rumor was the other way around. AT&T stepping up took every one of my friends who still work there by surprise. Best wishes.
So if you missed that, the whole Dahmer thing, the idea is that everybody at T-Mobile thought it was going to be Sprint or somebody else, but they've been waiting on this shoe to drop for years, and nobody expected the AT&T Inquisition to come in and try to save them. So it doesn't look right now like AT&T is going to buy T-Mobile, but interesting inside information there. Thank you, KS Kryptonian, for that. And thank you, Jon Strickland, for joining us today and taking the time to chat with us. Always great to have you. Let folks know where they can find the Tech Stuff podcast and all the other stuff you're doing over there at howstuffworks.com.
Sure. You guys just go on over to howstuffworks.com. We have web pages out for all of our major podcasts. Mine is Tech Stuff, which was recently honored as one of the best tech podcasts of 2011 on iTunes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I was thrilled. I couldn't believe it. It was found out by accident. It was
well
amazing.
Deserved.
Thank you so much. And we also have apps for Android, for the iPhone, for the iPad. So there are a lot of different ways to get hold of our podcast and our other content. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't heard it already.
And thank you, folks, for submitting stories for us to consider for coverage on our Reddit. Our subreddit is technewstoday.reddit.com. Great place to submit stories or vote on stories, up or down, whether you want to hear them on the show. We use that to help make our lineup every day. And don't forget to submit your favorite moments for TNT or any show on TWiT at twit.tv/bestof. Help Jason put together that best of special we're going to be airing in that week between Christmas and New Year's. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. You can find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, TNT@twit.tv, or give us a call and leave us a voicemail like our folks did today, 260-TNT-SHOW. Brian Brushwood joins us tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Veronica will be on tomorrow?